Welcome to Layer the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, let's discuss artificial intelligence, AI, and its possible effect on the future of heavy metal and the future of music. Now, yesterday, I put out a music challenge request to everybody, and I linked two songs from a band called Frostbite Orc King. That band is not a real band. It and those songs were created by AI. They were created by a computer. It was all artificial intelligence that created those two songs. Now, regardless of what you think of that style of music, maybe that style, that battle metal, power slash death metal type thing isn't up your alley, you can't deny that to the average ear, you would have thought that that was just some new band that sounds like a cross between Amon Amarth and Sabaton. Now, I don't completely understand how all this AI stuff works. I know not that long ago, I was seeing a lot of people talking about AI in regards to artwork, where you could tell it to create an image for you. For instance, I've been seeing videos. Someone did a video of War Pigs where each of the lines of the song, AI created an image for each line in the verses. And I didn't really realize the impact that it was starting to have in music. And quite honestly, in some ways, I'm completely shocked and horrified at the same time. And I really think that we're standing at the beginning of another seismic change in music, the way we saw when Napster landed, the way when Napster hit, music sort of changed almost overnight. I should say the music business changed overnight, which then, of course, had an effect on music in general. And what I see happening with this artificial intelligence is just what we saw with Frostbite Orc King. Those songs are pretty good for that style of music. Again, it may not be your cup of tea, but you gotta admit it's pretty catchy. It doesn't sound awkward at all. Pretty much sounds just like something you would hear from a band in that genre. I'm going to be making a separate video on computers, and the topic's going to be something like, have computers ruined music, or are computers good for music? And I'm going to go into more detail in that one of how we've kind of gotten to this point where we can have a computer generated song that sounds like it could be some random band on Nuclear Blast Records or something, you know? And you may say to yourself, well, how is this even possible? But it makes sense to me because let's take a band like Iron Maiden. I think what the people do is that they would input all the Iron Maiden songs into this program or whatever it is. And the program is able to analyze tendencies within the music. So for instance, with Iron Maiden uses this chord progression. Where am I here? A lot. Now you throw in the gallop rhythm, right? Okay, I'm just making this up, but it sounds like Iron Maiden, right? Throw in some guitar harmonies that go, or something like that. And how about some lyrics about airplanes or war? Right? It's like add water and you have an instant Iron Maiden song. So it's easy to see how these things could do this. Now you might say, well, I'm not going to listen to something like that. I don't, that's just not my thing. But what these Frostbite Orc Kings did, from what I've read, the little that I understand, I don't know if this is them or if this is a website or a separate thing called the metal verse, where what I gathered, they had people come in and play, I guess, standard heavy metal type things, studio musicians. And then the computer took all this information, chopped it up, put it together, and made a song out of it. So that's how they were able to do it. And that's how they were able to do it without sampling, directly taking from an already existing band. Another thing that's happening, and this just absolutely blows my mind, with AI, you can imitate someone's voice. So I saw a video of a guy, I can't remember who the rapper was, it was somebody whose voice, I think Kanye West's voice or something like that, right? I wouldn't even recognize his voice if I heard it. But this guy was just speaking like I am, and he sounded just like Kanye West. And then he turned the thing off and it went back to his regular voice. So there's all over YouTube now where you're able to take a vocal track from a song and make it sound like somebody else sang it. Down below, I'm going to link Paul McCartney singing Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven. An AI version of Paul McCartney singing Eric Clapton's Tears in Heaven. And I want you to listen to it. And again, if I didn't tell you that this was AI, if I came to you and said, hey, here's a long lost demo, Eric Clapton originally wrote this song for Paul McCartney, here's Paul's, you would think it was Paul McCartney. It sounds just like Paul McCartney. Now, some of these videos, when they put the person's voice, like there's a whole bunch like with Kurt Cobain, like Kurt Cobain sings Even Flow by Pearl Jam. And sometimes it works. It has to, like, Eric Clapton's voice and range, I think, sits nicely within where Paul would be naturally. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But it raises this question of, all right, now someone can use the computer to randomly generate an Iron Maiden sounding song, and they can use the computer to sound like Bruce. And this is what I mean by what I said earlier about the implications that this is going to have for the music business. I think it's going to affect the music business the same way that Napster affected the business back in 2000 or 2001, whenever it was that Napster came out. And the reason I say that is because who owns the copyright to Paul McCartney's voice? I'm not taking his voice and cutting it and editing it. I'm using a computer to talk just like I'm talking right now, and it can make me sound like Paul McCartney. Does Paul McCartney own his voice? What about somebody who's an imitator, right? There's some guy that does, I think he's from Brazil or somewhere. It sounds like exactly like Bruce Dickinson. He has an Iron Maiden tribute band. It's mind-blowing how much he sounds like Bruce. And there's a ton of like Beatles tribute bands and tribute bands in general, right? You know, where sometimes you hear these bands and they sound exactly like, very, very close to the singer. You can't sue them, right? You can't stop them. Let's say they go and write their own music. You're in a Queen tribute band and you sound really, really close to Freddie Mercury, and you write your own song, but you sing it and try to sound exactly like Freddie Mercury. I mean, you can't be sued for that, can you? You can't be stopped from doing that, can you? I don't know. I don't think so when it's your voice. What about if it's a computer generated thing? Can they somehow stop that? But let's say on top of that all, I have the artificial intelligence is able to analyze every Beatles song, and it can write me a song that sounds like a long lost Beatles song. And then I sing it and have the computer make me sound like Paul McCartney. Where is the lead? And here's where it's really going to get tricky. When somebody does this and everybody sits back and goes, wow, that's a really good song, and that song starts getting played on the radio or starts getting millions of YouTube views, then where are we at in music? You can tell the music industry is gonna I mean, they'll probably take advantage of this too, where they just may use AI to generate. Okay, we're just going to generate these bands. We're going to use, these sounds of these voices. Now here's where it could get. Okay, you may say, all right, nobody's going to stand for that. I don't want to hear somebody who sounds like computer generated, using a computer to sound like Paul McCartney. I don't want to listen to that. I'll listen to Paul McCartney. Okay. But with these things, first of all, the technology is very much in the infancy stage. This is like, remember when Napster first came out and everybody was downloading extremely low quality MP3s, right? Think of how far that's come. This whole AI stuff is just getting started. It's going to be, give it 5 years and it'll be, who knows where it'll be. You can blend the amount of the voice that you're imitating. So in other words, how about if I use a computer to make a song that analyzes all the Beatles songs and spits out a tune to me, sounds like Beatles music, and I sing along with it, but I use 50% of Paul McCartney's voice to make my voice blend in 50% of Paul McCartney. Because sometimes these versions that you're hearing people put up on YouTube, they're doing different amounts of blends. It's like 50-50. Like there was, I think, Kurt Cobain singing Black Hole Sun. I could be wrong. It was one of those where it was like very much a 50-50 split. You could still hear the original voice in there, but then you also heard Kurt's voice. So, or how about this? How about if I mix Paul McCartney and Freddie Mercury? I do 33% Paul McCartney, 33% Freddie Mercury, and 33% me. Or somebody else. What does it matter, right? Now I'm mixing up the voices. All right? How ethical is that? How legal is that, right? As a society, again, are we going to sit back and say, I don't want to have anything to do with this. This is just wrong. It's artificial. It's not. And you can say to yourself, oh man, this is, computers don't have heart. They don't have soul. Listen, I'm going to make a video on computers, and we've been moving towards this for a while now. Bands basically using a computer. This is why so much stuff sounds the same. I did a video a long time ago on why do so many of these bands sound the same, and it was about, I believe, Frontier Records, and I talked about how they record everything in the same studio. Everybody records their parts on their own. They send it in. The same guys mixing it. They all sound the same. The drums sound the same. The arrangements sound the same. Well, really, that's like one step below artificial intelligence, the computer just doing it for you. And that's where we're at now. And that's part of the reason why, that Frostbite or King, it really, be honest with yourself. When you listen to that, did you immediately go, oh, this is an artificially, computer generated song? You didn't think that. I didn't. I thought it was just, I shouldn't say, because I was researching this and I put in AI metal bands and that came up. So I figured that's what this was. But if you had just randomly played this for me in my car or something, I would have been like, yeah, this is pretty good, catchy, Monomarth meets Sabaton. I wouldn't have known any different. So I'm jumping in with an edit here. I usually don't like to do that in the videos, but I made this video yesterday, and as I was laying in bed last night, the thought occurred to me, what if somebody uses AI to help them write the song, but then they bring it to their band and the band performs it? So they tell the AI, study every Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and Judas Priest song and make me a 5-minute song based on those 3 bands. And then they take that, they tweak it a little bit, but they basically use the AI to write songs for them. Or let's say a guitar player inputs into the AI thing, I want you to analyze every Ritchie Blackmore, Deep Purple, and Rainbow solo and every Eddie Van Halen solo, and I want you to give me a 28-bar guitar solo in that style. And then that person takes it and learns it and records it on their album. Is that cheating? Is that unethical? How would people feel about that? Somebody could do that and not even mention that that's what they did. They input it into the computer. It comes up and they say, hey, they never even mention that's what they did. So where does it, and again, you got to admit, you'd be really curious, right? If, and if you haven't already, stop and listen to the Paul McCartney Tears in Heaven thing, because it sounds, if you haven't heard these yet and you're thinking to yourself, oh, it probably sounds really fake and artificial. I mean, you can tell at times if you're really listening for it. It reminds me of like the subliminal messages thing. Like if you're listening for it and you want to hear it, you can hear it. But if you're just casually listening and you're not thinking that this is artificial intelligence, you think it's Paul McCartney. So what happens then okay, you got to admit, if somebody did this with, let's say, Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath, but they put Ozzy's voice on that, I'd be curious to hear that. Would I pay money to buy it? No, because in the back of my mind, I'd know it was fake. But I sure as heck would be curious to hear that. Just to hear it, just as a thing. Uh, Now, another thing that I could see happening is imagine this. Okay, I mentioned Frostbite or King, and what they did was they apparently, to avoid any copyright issues of them just actually splicing up songs from other bands, they had studio musicians come in and I guess play a whole bunch of things and basically create a library for them so that they own those sounds. Imagine if Kiss comes out and says, hey, here's the Kiss AI package. We've gone into the studio. We've played our guitars, so you get our guitar sounds, our drum sounds. Gene sings, Paul sings, and you can sit there and you can use artificial intelligence. You can tell the artificial intelligence, hey, I want a Kiss song that's about us reading books all day and sleeping all night. All right. And I want it to be this fast and I want it to be this long. Go. And you have this authorized package from Kiss where it says, make your own unique Kiss song. This is for you. Imagine then if they were able to get Peter Criss's voice and Ace's voice and Ace's guitar tone and everything on it. Imagine that going in. Okay, I want Ace's guitar and I want, whoever on the drums. I want Gene's voice, and in the chorus, I want Paul and Peter to be saying. Can you imagine that? And I want them to sing, about my girlfriend Susie. And I want them to write a Kiss ballad for my girlfriend Susie. And that's, a gift that you give her. Here's your very own Kiss song. I mean, it's completely possible. It's completely believable. And bands may start doing that when they realize, like, whoa, again, it's going to be shocking when somebody puts out a song and you're like, man, this is the best song that I've heard from this band in ages. And it was created by a computer. So I think some of these bands are going to start panicking and like, okay, how can we make money off of this? And also, we talk all the time. I did a video on people using backing tracks and stuff like that live. I mean, this is the next thing. All right, how about this? How would you accept this? Would this be ethical for you? Let's say Rob Halford goes in, and on the next Judas Priest record, you're hearing 50% Rob Halford and 55% an AI-generated 25-year-old Rob Halford. Blended together. How about that? Would you go for that? I mean, it's Rob. I get it's his voice, right? Does he have a right to have a time machine and blend in his 25-year-old voice in with his 50, however old he is, 65-year-old voice? I don't know. What about if they start doing this live? What happens if Ozzy gets up and it's Ozzy Osbourne's voice from 1974? An AI generated thing where he's able to sing and it's the computer is making it sound just like him. And again, if you haven't heard these yet and you're thinking, oh, it's not going to sound like it, listen to Paul McCartney sing Tears in Heaven. And you can go down a rabbit hole here. Type in John Lennon AI. Type in Paul McCartney AI. Type in Kurt Cobain AI. And you'll hear all of these things that people are doing. It's starting to explode now. people are putting these things together. And man, it raises a lot of questions. What is going to happen here? And can't you just totally picture a record label saying, you know what, we're going to AI everything. All we need is some pretty faces to get up on stage and look cool, to look good. I mean, they practically do that already with boy bands, right? That's really what it is. Other people make the music. The image is a pre-created. They just get up on stage and do dance moves, and I guess they sort of sing. But imagine if just the whole thing is just created by a computer, and you don't have to hire songwriters. You don't have to hire studio musicians. You don't have to. You can just at the press of a button. I want a slow ballad. I want a fast party song about whatever, something that would go over in this day and age, attract people. I don't know. Right? Where can this go? It feels like, again, we're sort of on the doorstep. It's like the art thing. What now? If you can just tell AI to, hey, I want this image, I want something that goes with this album title, and AI does it for you. And sometimes these things look bad. Sometimes they don't look so bad. Right? Where does this put music in the future? I don't know. It's really interesting. So let me know what you guys think about AI in metal, AI in general. Where is this going? I mean, I really have, if 3 years ago, a year ago, if you had said this to me, I would have thought this wasn't possible. But I think I was watching Rick Beato. He's a guy that has a channel that discusses all kinds of music related things. And I think it was him that said, things never go backwards. Once auto-tune came in, everybody eventually started using it. Once sampling, everybody started to use it. Once, right? Things very rarely go backwards. People will embrace this because it will allow them to make things cheaper. And the average person who just listens to stuff on the radio, they may not care at all. They may say, hey, I don't care. It sounds like Led Zeppelin and it's fun. It sounds like Eddie Money and it's fun, or whatever. And maybe the estates of these places just write off on it to say, okay, we're going to let you do this. We're going to let you call it Led Zeppelin, or we're going to let you call it something like Led Zeppelin, and you just give us a cut of it. Right? And there's probably a lot of people out there that just won't care. If the song is good, they'll be perfectly fine with it. Okay, this was a huge, long video, but this is something, man, I just feel like my mind is blown on this whole thing and the thoughts about where this could go in the future, all right? So let me know what you guys think. What do you think of AI? What do you think is the future of all this? What did you think of the Frostbite or King song? Be honest, what do you think now that you know that it was generated by a computer? Let me know in the comments down below. Till we see you again. Stay heavy, stay metal.